Welcome to Government Contracting Academy weekly event. My name is Jonathan Geyer. I would like to introduce you to the founder of Government Contracting Academy, Randall Wimmer. Randy won $2 billion in federal contracts, and today he's going to share what he learned. He's going to speak to the top 10 mistakes he's seen government contractors make.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much. Today's topic though about the big and first of all, I really love this theme because if you know what to avoid, that's half the battle. You know what I mean? If you know what not to do, then if you flip the other side of that coin, it's basically telling you what you need to do in order to be successful. And in today's landmine that I encourage people to avoid is stop playing the wrong numbers game. And everybody always says, Randy, what do you mean by numbers game? Well, the federal government contracting industry is a numbers game. That's why I love it so much. If you put the numbers in, you are guaranteed to have success. It is simple probability and statistics. So what numbers are we talking about? Well, the first number you got to be aware of is your competition. There's over 100,000 small businesses in the federal government contracting industry. Over 100,000. Think about that. That is an enormous number. The next set of numbers I'm talking about is the number of opportunities. At any given time, there are tens of thousands of solicitations in various states, of solicitation, of award, at any given time. Tens of thousands of opportunities. The next set of numbers I want to talk to you is about the number of potential partners out there in the big business side. There are over 40,000 business development executives in large companies in the federal government contracting industry, and they all need to work with small businesses as part of their small business subcontracting goal requirements. And then the final number is the dollars. Government contracting is a big dollar industry, big dollars. So what does that mean? That means that you need to shift your game plan from winning lots of contracts to winning a few. Sometimes one is all it takes, contracts, but they've got to be the right kind of contracts. And that's what I want to talk about today, Jonathan. I want to talk about something that is contradictory to everybody. Smaller is not easier. Every small business owner out there has the initial tendency to believe that because I'm bidding on something smaller, it is going to be easier for me to win. And that could not be the furthest from the truth. And I know it's contrary to what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks is, hey, I'm a small business and this is a small business set aside, and therefore I'm going to be more competitive for it. Well, that is true, but so's 55 other bidders. Because that's how many people are going to be bidding on it, because you're going to be thinking the same way as you are. That is the wrong mindset that you have to have. So what I'm going to steal my own thunder right here, and I'm just going to tell you the solution here. The solution is the bigger the small business set aside is, the fewer the bidders, and the easier it is to win. And the number of bidders, goes down with the size, because small business owners are terrified of bidding on large government contracts. It's their insecurity. They feel like, oh man, I'm a small business, I can't bid on something like that. So one is they down select. So I'm going to tell you how much they down select. I bid on, and I want to show you the comparison here. I bid on I think it was like a 5-person, prime contract with the VA. And I thought, like, hey, I'm a small business, 5-person prime contract. They'll have to believe that I can do it. And so I'm thinking, like, I'm confident enough to be able to pull off a 5-person prime contract. And I bid on it. And I'm not joking when I say this. So did 55 of, my closest buddies, in that industry. So I had a 1 in 55 chance of winning that. Now, realistically, that's less than 2% probability. That's assuming that we were all doing it the right way. So when you have a 2% probability of win, that is not the game you want to play. 2% is bad. Now, my very first prime contract, I kind of discovered, like, hey, it's easier to go after larger ones. And the reason why is because you have a much, much, much smaller number of bidders. So when I bid on my very first prime contract that I was awarded, there were 6 other bidders. I had a 1 in 7 chance of winning. 1 in 7 chance. And this was for a $15 million contract. Now, I had a 2% chance of winning something that would have netted me maybe a couple $100,000, or I had a 1 in 7 chance of winning something that would make me a multimillionaire. That's the strategy. That's the strategy you have to play. You've got to go after these much larger bids where you have a significantly greater probability of success, even though you're an ultra small business. And that's the game. And most people aren't doing that. Most people aren't playing that game. They're playing hey, I'm a small business. I'm going to start out in subcontracting, and I'm going to stay in subcontracting until I win a lot of subcontracts. And then I'm going to start going after prime contracts, and I'm going to start winning those. But here's the reality of that. You're never going to have success. And if you do have success, it's going to be meaningless from a financial standpoint, because you're going to have you're playing in the probability of 1 of 2%, and you're never going to have success with that.
A part that stands out for me, and I'd like you to speak to it, your math, the calculation, the path that you went to come to that conclusion did not involve effort, right? Like that was a separate variable that you added to that afterwards. Like, we're just speaking probabilities right now.
Yeah, we're just talking about probability. But yeah. So now I'm going to give you that bidding on larger bids is more difficult, takes more effort than bidding on smaller ones. I give you that one. But I have a rule. It's called the 1 + 1 = 11. What do I mean by that? You can bid on a $1 million bid, that a contract that's worth $1 million, and you can bid on another one that's worth $1 million. And the effort combined in those two $1 million bids is about equivalent of the effort that you're going to be bidding on an $11 million bid. That's what I mean by 1 + 1 = 11. So which one do you think has the highest return on investment? 2 $1 million bids where you have a 2% chance of winning both, or a $11 million bid where you have somewhere between a 10 to 15% probability of winning, because it's just the number of bidders. So it's the $11 million bid every single day. And if you can't see that, trust me, government contracting is probably not for you. So I would do something that didn't deal with any numbers. So that's the strategy that I would have with that. Is you want to bid on the bigger efforts, and where you have a higher probability of success. And these higher probability of success are effectively the best return on investment, because they're not that much more effort that's required.
And our measure of success in this perspective is not effort. It's not how hard we work. It's winning, like distill everything down, all the possible considerations down. Do you want to win or not win? What we're speaking to now is winning. Right.
That's it. It's what it really comes down to. So the deal is you got to step over that mental hurdle of, I'm going to bid on something bigger because I have a higher probability of success at it. Now,
you just work harder, right? Like
it's so this is what I recommend that people do. I'm going to say, and let's use conservative numbers. I'm going to say you should bid on these large small business set-asides where you can bid on them like maybe one every 2 months. And if you're able to do that, and give yourself a 10% probability of winning. Now, that's the point where nobody likes to hear, like, what, a 10% probability of winning? You want me to write this massive proposal for something I have a 90% probability of losing? And I say, absolutely. Absolutely. And it kind of reminds me back to the movie The Princess Bride. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Billy Crystal says, "Oh, he's mostly dead," and that means he's a little alive. So, that's the part you got to focus on. If you bid on something significant enough that it can make you a millionaire off of that one win alone, and you have a 10% probability. Wow. That's pretty amazing. You have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming a millionaire by winning it. Now, compare that to, I'm going to bid on something that over a period of 5 years, I'm going to make $100,000 and I have a 2% chance of winning. Now, if you do the expected math, it's the expected your probability of win times the payoff of the win, and that return on investment is very, very, very low. But if you're bidding on something where you have a 10% chance of winning, and and it'll give you $5 million in profit. Well, that 10% of probability times a $5 million payoff is $500,000. So that's the way you have to look at it. Even if you lose, the value of that bid was worth $500,000. That is how much the value of it is to you. And the reason why you have to play that game is because you don't know which one of those you're going to win. And this is what's crazy. This is just pure math, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm going to be off by a little bit. But if you commit to bidding on a massive prime contract every 2 months for a year, that's 6 bids. 6 bids. Your probability of winning one of those is around 50%. So the question that I have for for everybody listening here as a small business owner, would you work like crazy? And I do mean like crazy, to have a 50-50 chance of becoming a multimillionaire in a year. And I tell you what, if your answer to that is not like hell yeah, well, one is you're not a capitalist, you don't believe in the American dream, and because that, if you do it 6 times, once every 2 months, again, your probability of winning one or more of those is about 50%. It's like that's why I tell you. That's why I tell people that federal government contracting is a numbers game, and if you do the numbers, it's just probability and statistics. You will be successful, but only if you're bidding on the right types of bids, only if you're playing the right numbers game. And I work with a lot of folks, and a lot of folks that they'll never even bid on a single bid, a single large, prime contract, in a year. And it baffles me. And I understand why they don't. It's because they're insecurity. And they're scared of losing. Like, oh my gosh, we don't have a chance of winning that. Well, you do. You got about a 10%, chance of winning it. And, and that 10% probability of success has an expected value that's probably approaching $1 million to you, and yet they still don't do that. Why? Because that probability of losing 90% keeps them from bidding. Somehow or another, we associate that if we lose a bid, bad things are going to happen to us. They don't see this as a zero-sum game. That means zero. That means I get nothing out of it versus, which is good, actually. If I lose and nobody's going to come and take my car from me, nobody's going to come and, steal my birthday from me. It's like nothing bad happens. You've just lost an incredible amount of effort. That's what you've lost. But we're all small business owners. That's the one thing that we can afford to lose. We're not putting up our house for mortgage. We're not betting our house on this thing. We're betting our effort. We're betting our sweat equity. We're betting, pulling all-nighters and driving to work to our real job with bloodshot eyes. That's what we're investing in this thing. Because it takes 2 things to make money. And that is you have to have you have to own an appreciable asset. Those are the 2 things that have to happen. You got to own an appreciable asset to create real wealth. Now, you can own something that you buy, like stocks and shares in a company, but that takes money to make money. In entrepreneurship, you can take ownership and you can convert that into effort. I'm going to create an asset, not buy it. I'm going to create it from nothing. And that's what I'm encouraging folks to do. Create that asset using your sweat equity, play the numbers game, and somewhere around bid number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the numbers are so skewed to your favor that it's almost a guarantee that you're going to have success in this industry.
It could be worth pointing out how things work on the government side, on the customer side. And specifically, I'm poking towards the structure. It's the same structure for the big ones as the small ones, which speaks to the probability that you're describing.
Oh yeah, and the deal, yeah, you're right. Believe it or not only is it easier to win on these large small business set-asides because you have less competition, but your proposal becomes easier to write. Everybody thinks like, how can that be? You're bidding on this large, complex, dot, 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 dot. No. As a small business set-aside, request for proposal gets larger and larger and larger and larger, the less and less the government is concerned about your precise solution, whether or not you have, years of experience supporting their organization, all of that kind of stuff. On any bid, half of your score, your overall proposal evaluated score is risk. And most people don't realize you get a technical rating and a risk rating for your proposal sections. Now, what the government usually does is they usually combine those into a single rating, a technical/risk rating. So on any bid across the federal government, risk is half of your score. Again, most small businesses don't know that. Now, for small business set-asides, where the government automatically assumes that all the small businesses are going to be high-risk entities, believe me when I say this, risk is a hell of a lot more important, on large small business set-asides. So the strategy that I employed in my very first company, where I went from having only one prime contract, which I was about ready to lose, to winning nearly $400 million in prime contracts, again, for my very small business, is I learned how to play the low risk bid game. And the way I did that is I wanted to show the federal government, the source selection board, who's going to make the award determination, that my company was ultra mature and low risk. So instead of investing page counts on writing highly technical solutions to whatever they were talking about that they needed in the request for proposal, I focused on risk. We were ISO 9001 quality management system certified. Less than 1% of U.S. companies can possess that. And what does that mean? Well, that means that my company was audited by an accredited third party and found fully compliant with the globally accepted industry best practices for quality management, activities. We had management systems that were higher quality, more robust, more mature than 99% of all businesses in the United States. And what I did is I played up the risk game. I played up the fact that we were a mentor protege program, so where we had access to our mentors, resources and infrastructure. I played up the fact that for our benefits, we went with a professional employment organization where we had the same exact benefit packages, the same exact HR support and recruiting capabilities as multi-billion-dollar companies had. So I played up the fact that we had very mature, robust infrastructure. And again, I went from having only one prime contract that I was on the verge of losing to winning nearly $400 million in 3.5 years. And I did that because I started playing the right numbers game. And I started focusing on bidding on large small business set-asides that were extraordinarily concerned about risk of the bidder. And I focused on projecting myself as the lowest risk bidder in the bid field. And it was insanely